Rosco noticed it before he saw it. A soft sound, low and close to the ground. Not the swish of leaves overhead or the creak of branches in the breeze. This was smaller, careful, a dry, papery rustle, followed by the faintest thump as though something had been set down. Rosco slowed his steps. The oak stood just ahead, broad and familiar now, its trunk rising steadily into the open light above. Yesterday it had felt tall, stretching high, leaves bathed in sunlight reaching for the sky. Today, though, it felt busy. Things were decidedly a doing of. Rosco waited. Near the base of the tree, where the roots folded into the earth, the way birds' feet curl around a twig, the leaves in the thicket shifted again. Then a small, dainty nose appeared. Then a whiskered face dusted with soil, topped with an ivy leaf perching delicately like a hat. "Oh," said the bewhiskered face, "you're early." The little vole stepped fully into view, brushing a piece of spongy moss from her apron. She was small and neat, her fur the warm colour of dry oats, her eyes bright and thoughtful. "I'm Lettuce Underleaf," she said, giving a polite nod. "I was just finishing up." Rosco smiled. "Good morning, Lettuce. I'm Rosco." "I know," she said cheerfully. "The oak mentioned you yesterday." Rosco blinked. "The oak?" he said. Lettuce Underleaf glanced at the trunk, then back at Rosco. "Well, not in words exactly, but it creaked a little differently when you were inside it. That usually means something interesting has happened." Rosco chuckled softly. "I was up there," he said, "inside. There's a sort of staircase." "Yes," Lettuce said, "I know of it." She said this the way one might say, "I know of the moon," aware of it, but not especially concerned. Lettuce turned back to her work. "The wind moved things about last night," she explained. "It does that. Best to put everything back where it belongs." Rosco crouched a little to see under the thicket near the oak where Lettuce Underleaf had been working. The space was lighter than he'd expected. Sunlight filtered down through gaps in the leaves above, dappling the ground with soft patches of gold. The soil smelled cool and rich, pine needle fresh and mushroomly earthy. The bark nearby held the day's warmth. "It's very calm down here," Rosco said. Lettuce smiled. "Yes, the oak is very good at holding the woods in peace and tranquillity." They sat for a moment, listening. Above them, the leaves whispered quietly. Somewhere higher up, a blackbird hopped and fluttered in a momentary fluster, then settled down again, comfortable on her branch. Down at ground level, a beetle ticked past with quiet determination. "Can't stop, I'm afraid. The seeds won't gather themselves." "You don't go up the staircase?" Rosco asked gently. Lettuce shook her head. "Oh no, that's not really for me." "Too high?" "Too open up at the top," she said after a moment's thought. "I like to know where the ground is." She pressed her paw into the soil beside her, just enough to feel it give and absorb the shape of her fingers and palm. Up there, she went on, nodding toward the trunk, you can see a long way. That's very fine. But down here, the oak remembers the things that need looking after. Remembers? Rosco asked. Lettuce nodded. Footsteps, rain, hazelnuts stored for winters, the places where worms turn the earth and make it easier for the soil to breathe. The oak keeps track of all that. Rosco thought of the view from the top of the tree, the wide sky, the long horizon, the feeling of standing somewhere new. That sounds important too, he said. Oh, it is, Lettuce agreed. Just different. A small breeze stirred, and a leaf slipped loose from a branch above, spiralling gently down. Lettuce reached out and caught it before it touched the ground. Ah, she said, that one goes over here. She tucked it into a narrow gap where several other leaves rested, layered neatly. What's that for? Rosco asked. A path, Lettuce replied. When the rain comes, it shows the water where to go. Rosco watched as she pressed the leaf into place, smoothing it carefully. Would you like to help? She asked. I would, said Rosco. Lettuce paused near the base of the oak and rested her paws on her knees. After the wind, she said, things don't always land where they're most useful. Rosco followed her gaze. A thin twig lay across a narrow run in the soil, right where a busy beetle might need to pass. A cluster of leaves had gathered in a dip between two roots, softly curved and folded, but heavy enough to block the way through. Nearby there was a scattering of lighter twigs, assorted pine cones and tufts of dried grass that stood in feathery wisps wherever they'd happened to fall. Some things were tangled, others half buried, and some at a loss for what to do. The oak doesn't mind, Lettuce went on, but the smaller folk do. She nudged the twig aside with one careful paw. Not far, just enough to open a clear line through the earth beneath it. Rosco crouched down too. From this low, close view, the ground felt busy in a quiet way. The soil was cool and crumbly. The bark above them held warmth from the morning sun. A tiny woodlouse scuttled and then paused, as if checking whether it was safe to continue. So we help by making space, Rosco said. Lettuce smiled. That's a good way of putting it. They worked slowly, companionably, not clearing, just adjusting. Rosco lifted a fallen leaf and tucked it gently against the root where it wouldn't slip back again. Lettuce Underleaf gathered a few straight twigs and laid them side by side near the trunk, not stacked, not hidden, simply waiting. For birds? Rosco asked. For whoever needs them, Lettuce replied. If they're easy to see, they're easier to choose. They pressed a shallow path into the soil with their paws, just wide enough for small feet, winding between stones and roots. When they finished, it didn't look made, it looked found, as though it had always meant to be there. They sat back for a moment. A beetle reappeared and tickety-picked its way through the leaf litter. "Can't stop, I'm afraid. So many things to do." Beneath the leaves under the thicket, the soil breathed woodland breaths. The base of the oak felt calmer, peaceful, mellow. "There," Lettuce said quietly. "Now it's ready again." Rosco nodded. He hadn't climbed anything. He hadn't built anything. But the ground beneath him felt different, complete somehow, and he had the curious sense that something important had been done. As they sat back and noticed the tiny goings-on round the base of the oak, Rosco told Lettuce about the staircase, how the inside of the oak curved gently upward, how the light slipped in through long soft cracks, how the sky had looked wider than he expected. Lettuce listened without interrupting, her pause never quite stopping as she turned a wooden peg around that she'd found in her apron. "That sounds lovely," she said at last. "I'm glad it's there." "You don't want to see it?" Rosco asked. She considered this. "Perhaps one day," she said, "but not today. Today feels like a ground sort of day." Rosco nodded. It did feel like that. Lettuce stood up and stepped back into the hollow between the roots, half hidden now among the leaves in the thicket. "Thank you for helping," she added. "Thank you for showing me," Rosco replied. As he stood to leave, Rosco rested his paw briefly against the oak's bark. It felt solid and steady, holding the light above and the quiet below at the same time. He walked home slowly, noticing the path differently now. The hedges seemed fuller, the ground more alive with small movements and soft sounds. The world felt layered, not bigger exactly, but deeper. That evening, as the light faded and the cottage grew snug, Rosco thought of the oak once more. Up above, the sky would be opening wide, and below, the oak would be remembering. All was snug. All was well. Night-night.